the people that are here to represent our village. These are very basic foundations of life, because a village is more than development. It's about our humanity between ourselves. So I put this sage down, and I just want to say that peace begins at home. And may we all think very honestly and truthfully in our heart how we can bring peace about, and not encourage any form of bullyism, because we are examples to our children. Thank you, and bless everybody who's come here tonight.
Thank you, Eloise. And the Chamber and the Valley Voice would like to thank Jason Clark very much for doing all the IT for us here tonight. And we'd like to thank Gary Wright for moderating. Here he is.
Thank you, Jan, everybody. Your thanks might be premature on my part. I'm not sure. But for sure, I want to let you know that Jason has provided all the sound system here. Through his company, I said that the least we could do is give him 10 seconds of free advertising. If any of you need any of these systems, just contact Three Birds Consulting. Okay, that's his moniker now. So again, Jason, thank you very much for this. And Jan and the Chamber of Commerce and the Valley Voice, thank you for again sponsoring this. I know that Jan and Jason have not slept for a couple nights as they help put this together. Tonight, we have to end at 9 o'clock, unfortunately, because I think we could go on a lot longer. But I just wanted to say that, of course, October 5th is advanced voting for municipal elections. October 15th is general election. So this is a perfect time to have this meeting. And I'm really glad that everybody can make it. In the interest of time, I want to tell you that the format tonight will be for me to introduce our candidates just by name, so you can see them. I think most of us know everybody who's here. And John Fyke, who is ill and can't make it in person tonight, thanks to Jason's work, is with us via Zoom. I have personally asked that when he speaks, hi John, that his picture be no larger than any of our candidates who are here in person. So for those of you who are wondering what the technical stuff can do, it's capable of more than what you will see. But the main thing is to get to hear everybody. We have tonight, as you know, for those of you who are voting for the first time or come to one of these meetings, this is a little different than the usual public hearing or public meeting tonight. At those meetings, it's very important what you say to council and to our local government, because they want to hear from you. This is different. This is a candidates meeting. And the best way I can explain it is it's really a job interview for these people up here. And you are all the hiring committee. That's your job. The results of your decision as a hiring committee will be made known to them late on October 15th. So that's how it works. Your job is to assess these individuals for their qualifications for office. It sounds kind of hard and crass, but you know, that's what it is. And it's kind of a wonderful process in a way. So I would just ask all of you on the hiring committee to remember that the usual thing to do on a hiring committee is like what people have done to me when I've applied for a job, which is listen to what they have to say. And if you don't like what they say, just be sure and tell them, thank you very much. We will call you later. That's all that we really need to say. But that's your role. We're trying to get in as many questions as possible tonight and use a Zoom platform for the first time at one of these meetings. So I think it's going to work really well because Jay's running it. But what we will do for everyone is we're going to start out after some introductions. The candidates will have 2 minutes to give an initial presentation about, themselves and what they would like to do. And at the end, we're going to give them all a chance also to correct all the rotten things that are said about them over the next 2 hours. So they'll get a last chance to reply to whatever they would like to reply to at the end. So that's the general format. We'll do about half an hour of questions that have been emailed in. I'll explain those when we get to them. And then we'll stand up for 2 minutes and jump up and down, sit down again, and get in half an hour of questions from you personally. And we'll have you come up and ask those questions. We'll try and get as many in as we can. All right. So that's the general way this is going to work. And to begin with, yeah, that's kind of the end of my wrap. I would like to introduce the candidates. And as I introduce you, if you could just stand up and take a hand from everybody for being crazy enough to run for local government. I do have to say from experience, that's a funny job because it's one of the few where you can be fired for no reason at the end of every 4 years and let go. It has no retirement plan. And it's one of the few businesses that's multi-million-dollar business where the people who manage it on the board or the council actually make less than anyone on their staff. Maybe if some private enterprises did that, it'd be a very different country. But that's another thing. Right now, I'd like to introduce our candidates. And if you could greet them as I introduce them, we'll go down the line this way. I think you know most of them. For Councillor, Colin Moss. Thank you. And for Councillor Casey Law. For Council, Danika Hammond. For Council, Vern Hartman. Vern Gustafson. Sorry about that. This will probably be my last appearance, Vern, as you can see, as I lose my mind. Okay. And also for Council on Zoom, John Fyke. He's waving. You can see him up there. Okay. For Mayor, Heather Fox. And for Mayor, Leonard Casley. Thank you. To begin with, everybody has their own mic. What I'd like to do is for the introductory statements, I'm going to start at this end of the table. I had no idea how people were going to be set up. We'll go down this way, and John will be after you, Vern, okay, for council. Okay, and for final closing statements, we're coming back the other way. All right, so that's how this will work. So everyone will have 2 minutes for the introductory statement. And I have somewhere here, I have an actual watch for keeping time. I did have. Okay. Here we go. Okay, and for the candidates, I'm just going to stand over here. And when there's 30 seconds left, I'm just going to raise my hand. That means you have 30 seconds to wrap up. And when I lower my hand, that means your time's up. Okay? So first, Colin Moss.
Hi, everybody. First of all, I don't have a prepared statement because I don't think I need one. Everybody here knows me, knows what this council has done in the past 4 years. I'd like to thank everybody who voted for me last time around 4 years ago. I remember 4 years ago standing in front of you saying that we've got to stop the backward slide of this community. One step back, one more half step backward, and we were done. We've got to turn it around. And in the last 4 years, that's what this council has done. one of the things I'm most proud of is the team that we've put together. I don't know if any of you realize that there's not one person working at the village staff, including Public Works, that was working when we were first elected. We've put together a first-class team along with Council and Public Works that was able to successfully complete the 3 large tasks we inherited, namely Denver siding, water, boundary extension, and Knox Hall. It took us 3.5 years. A lot of it was putting together the team that was able to do that. And now we've got a first-class team and a leader in Mayor Casley. We're not afraid to take on big projects because we know we can finish them. We've proven to you that we can take them on and finish them on budget. And that's how we're going to continue to move this village forward. How much time do I have? I think I'm just about up, eh? 10 seconds. Well, I enjoyed, it was a rare privilege, I think, working with a true working council and mayor. Thank you very much for showing up tonight.
There you go. Thank you, Colin. And next to speak for council, Casey Law.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming out this evening. I would like to acknowledge the traditional unceded territory of the Sinaiaks First Nation, which I live, provide health services, and play. You mostly know me, but my name is Casey Law. I was raised in New Denver since the age of 2, after my parents moved to operate the Mountain Berry Food Store, which is now the Canco Gas. They fell in love with this place for its good-natured people and the fantastic abundance of natural beauty, that which I share the same sentiment over. It was also a place to raise a family and run a small business for them. I grew up working in the store, and after graduating from Lucerne School, I went on to earn a diploma in criminal justice at Lethbridge College, and I applied that education working as a community peace officer for the city of Grand Prairie for 5 years, where I also volunteered on a search and rescue team. In 2011, I returned back to help to run the family store. And in 2018, I transitioned into a role as a paramedic and have since taken on the job of the unit chief and community paramedic for our local station. I'm running for council as I see what I've seen abroad and now at home, which is conflict and strife. I have to believe that by taking the time to listen to one another in a calm way, information can be gleaned that will help us move our community forward together. Creativity and innovation with a next generation council is my further aim. I hope tonight that I can answer questions to demonstrate my willingness to take on the role as councillor. I do care very much for our community and am interested in working on the issues of healthcare, affordable housing, and strengthening the population to a functioning level of diverse ages and backgrounds. My basic understanding of the role is to plan for and maintain services with good fiscal responsibility, but yet there is so much more to that. Look forward to answering your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Casey. And next to speak for council, Danika Hammond.
Thank you, Gary. I also want to acknowledge the traditional unceded territory of the Sinaiaks. This Friday is the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, and I urge everyone to take the time to think about their relationship to this land and to those who have lived here for time immemorial. I also want to thank the Valley Voice and the Chamber for organizing this event and for Gary for being our moderator. I'm pretty sure most people know me, but my name is Danika Hammond. Growing up in New Denver and Silverton, I have lived with dedicated values and a strong commitment to community service. While attending Lucerne back in elementary and high school, I was on the Rec Commission 6. I was crowned Miss New Denver here in this hall in 2011. I co-founded the Youth Center, and I took on a project to increase reusable bags in our community. These experiences taught me the importance of working in partnership and collaboration. Graduating as a Loran Scholar, I attended UBC for a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science and First Nations Indigenous Studies. And in my young career, I have been employed to work on numerous progressive campaigns and for the BC government as an executive and ministerial assistant to several cabinet ministers. I'm currently undertaking my Master's of Science in Rural Development and Community Planning remotely from my home in Denver Siding. And yeah, my work and education experience has propelled me to working service of the community. Since returning home in 2017, I've been a member and co-founder of the New Denver Housing Society and the Silverton Co-work Society. And in 2018, I was involved in advocating for 24/7 emergency services and doctor recruitment. Now I'm an active member of the Valhalla Fine Arts Board, and I regularly initiate community events to bring people together. Although there have been opportunities to further my career in larger centers, I've chosen to live and invest in my childhood property in Denver Siding, where I live with my dog Nimbus. I'd like to thank my family for their support for my candidacy and the community for showing such a strong interest in the future of New Denver. Thanks.
Thank you, Danika. Thanks. And for council, Vern Gustafson.
Good evening, all. Good evening, all. Sitting here looking out into the crowd. I'd like to acknowledge a person I really would like to see sitting here tonight, and that's Isabel. Thinking of her dearly tonight, her and her family, and you know, she's been a tireless volunteer to this community, you know, for decades. And I wish I could see her out here tonight. But I'm just kind of waiting for the next chance to see her in front of the post office, and I'll be told in no uncertain terms what's on her mind. So, by the way, the house that Isabel lives in was where my mother was raised in New Denver. I was born in New Denver in the old hospital. I was raised here, educated here. My father was born on the family farm at Perry Siding. He's lived in the Slocan Valley his entire life. My mother, her parents, her mother was born in Slocan City. My grandfather Butler was born in Ainsworth. My grandfather was a steam engineer on interior paddle wheelers. So he worked all the lakes between the Okanagan and Kootenay Lake. And when he was based in Vernon, my mother was born in Vernon. And then they moved to Victoria during the Second World War. And my mother, okay, yeah. Anyway, I'm a graduate of Selkirk College, forestry. I was a area supervisor in Golden. When I worked there, I looked after road construction, harvesting, you know, a lot of different stuff. Done. Okay. Ooh, that went quick.
Thank you. A problem faced by a lot of us is trying to let everybody know everything we've done. It's always hard. Thank you very much. For council, John Fyke. John, your turn.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. And thank you, Jay and Jan, for allowing me to come in. I caught COVID at a municipal conference last week, and it's still going around. You're aware of the many worthy projects that this council has completed in the last 4 years that will brighten our future. There is so much more to accomplish, and I'll outline a few that were priorities for me in 2018 and are in the work ahead. One of them was broadband. Several years of collaborating with Columbia Basin Broadband to complete the fiber optic backbone through New Denver was a major accomplishment. There is more to be done involving connectivity to the homes and businesses, but that project opens up New Denver to a whole new type of workforce into the digital future. Affordable housing. 3 years ago, Mayor Casley, Councillor Wagner, and myself met at the Union of BC Municipalities conference with the Deputy of BC Housing to offer village land as a site for affordable housing and indicated a society that would pursue the funding. After collaboration with the Housing Society to lease the land and great work by the society, it's now under construction. Due to the success of that partnered project, New Denver now has credibility. And last week, council at the UBCM conference met with 3 BC housing directors to possibly offer 2 more sites for affordable housing projects. The first step, as always, is land, and that's the hard part. Relocating the existing and dated water source wells away from the affordable housing project is now a necessity and expedient for a variety of reasons, including improving and protecting water quality, improving flows, increasing capacity, adding redundancy, ability to meet future demands, and allow for residential and economic growth. Council met with the deputies from municipal affairs at the UBCM conference last week to expedite that necessary process. And climate change and mitigation. At this UBCM conference, I attended a half-day clinic on the lessons learned from the Lytton fires and how that fire was able to be so devastating. I previously trained to become a licensed fire smart representative and will work further to implement actions which mitigate our village from climate-induced wildfire. In the last 2 years, this
John, excuse me just a second. I'm sorry. I was trying to get you on the screen there. Yeah, you have 2 minutes are up. So if you could just finish up for us, please. Thanks. Jason said you were finished. Okay, but thank you very much. And there. John, when you're talking, I think you can just barely see it on your screen. I'll try and stand here, and I'm trying to look at the camera there to let you know how much time you have. It might be a little hard to see. Okay, we have 2 candidates for mayor. As you know, for council, unfortunately, of the 5 really good people who are running, only 4 can be elected. For mayor, of the 2 really good people who are running, only 1 of them can be elected. But I would like to, at this time, introduce Heather Fox.
All right, thank you. Welcome, everybody. I'm glad that you're able to, it should be, get closer to the mic. All right, here we go. So welcome. I am glad that you're all able to take time out of your busy schedule to attend tonight's all candidates meeting. We appreciate you coming. I also want to acknowledge that we are on the traditional unceded territories of the Senex First Nations. My name is Heather Fox, and as you heard, I am running for the position of mayor. My husband and I were drawn to this community, and we moved here in 2008. At that time, I was working as a business analyst for IBM. My job required travel, where I worked on a variety of multi-million-dollar projects. My work in this environment taught me the importance of good communication and collaboration in order to bring about successfully delivered outcomes. I left the corporate world in 2011 and decided that running for council would be a good fit for my skill and would give me an opportunity to learn more about the community that I have come to call home. I was elected and I served 2 terms. It was a rewarding experience and I learned a lot, including the importance of good governance. I took a break from that role in 2018 to focus on my business and am now ready to return to the table. A desire to see more openness, collaboration, and transparency at the council table was the impetus for me stepping up. I also want to encourage greater collaboration between the village and the nonprofit groups that make our community the amazing place that it is. I look forward to seeing every home in New Denver connected to the fiber optic backbone because that has the potential to transform how business and individuals can interact with the outside world, opening doors for greater economic benefit to our village. I will commit to working with the BC Rural Health Network and other local governments and those volunteers whose tireless efforts are striving to keep our hospital open and rural healthcare strong. I also fully support working both locally and regionally to strengthen our food network and increase our food security. Working together is the strength that will move our village forward. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to answering your questions tonight.
Thank you, Heather. And candidate for mayor, Leonard Casley.
Hi, I'm Leonard. I've could go back forever, but in living in this community, my grandma was born here, so you can do the math if you like. So I spent somewhere around 30 years on the fire service locally here, and 23 of it as a fire chief. And I also did 2 terms of council prior to stepping up and doing council as taking on a position as mayor. And when we took on the position as mayor and took on moving things forward and used my experience of actually working with a gentleman that's in this room right now and learning a lot actually from his time as working underneath him. And what we did was we put together a plan. And in that plan, we had given staff, present and past staff, we were very exceptionally lucky to have great staff, both past and present. What is kind of a challenge is sometimes the way public treats the staff. It is actually quite discouraging. But as we move forward, we have to move forward, because I can tell you, after the countless hours I have spent looking at and working towards saving the ER and ambulance service and all the services in emergency services, we have to grow. That is the bottom line. Done or what? Well, I go on forever, so. So please get out and vote. This is a time you get to have your say. If you do not like what we're doing, this is your opportunity to tell us. Thanks.
Thank you, Leonard. Well, there you go. What a slate. We're moving on at this time to questions, and we're doing not badly for time. Right now, what happened is, as you know, the Valley Voice, who's got information about everybody towards the election, and I'm sure you've read about them already, also asked for people to email in questions if for health reasons or because they were afraid of being in a small room, which is understandable at this time with whatever rampant stuff is going around, to email in their questions, and we would spend some time trying to answer them. The questions were received and vetted at the Valley Voice, and in the interest of openness, you know, Jan wanted me to be sure and let you know the following. There was about 12 questions. We probably won't be able to get to all of them any more than we'll be able to get to all the questions from the floor. But we will spend the next 30 minutes doing as many questions as we can, and we'll take it from there. The way they're ordered is they're in order of topics that were of most interest to the people who emailed in their questions. And so we'll try and get to those first, and we'll work our way down the list, and you'll see the information we have. There were 5 questions came in regarding the pump track and the off-leash area and division in the community. That's kind of the category, and seemed to be the area where most people were questioning. There were a number of questions, and the emails came from Ann Sherrod, Rosalie Bird, Isaac Carter, Bill Roberts, and Phil Whitfield. Jan selected Phil Whitfield's question as the general one that might lead us to the most answers for everybody. Okay, we hope they do. If they don't, come up during the question period here, and we'll take it from there. Okay, but the question is, and this is a classic way to phrase these, where you get a little preamble and then ask a question. Okay, the issue of the pump track location became unexpectedly controversial over many months and created disproportionate tensions and workloads. What lessons about village governments do you think can be drawn from this uncomfortable experience? Okay, that's the question. And I would like to start at this end, and we'll work back down the table this way. Leonard?
Well, I'm not really sure.
Oh,
if I'm-
excuse me. Yeah, just before we start, we'll give about a minute and a half, okay, for these.
Whatever, you
Okay,
tell me to shut
go
up.
ahead.
when I'm
Okay.
done.
Excuse me for that.
We had COVID for one thing. We also, it was put out and the location was on every document that went out to the public and the 2 open houses, and you had time to respond with an email and everything else. We had professional people hired besides our professional staff that have gone to school to look at how you do things like active transportation. How do you move public around, and what would be the best and most safest way and the most active way to be able to do things like that? This was not a decision that was made on the side or sly. And in that decision, we did listen to the people that wanted an off-leash area. And we had put that in the plan, and it was always in the plan right from the beginning. And council actually, at the beginning of the budget year, put in $15,000 for seed money, just like what happened with the pump track and other actual stuff that has gone on when you work with the societies. When societies work with you and you take those seed monies, and then you're able to go to CBT and grant fund a bigger project. But with only putting certain amount of money, then that's the way it works.
Okay, thank you. I know everybody could speak to this much longer, but that's about 90 seconds. Is that kind of answer going to be okay with everybody on this question? Because we want to have everybody respond. Okay, I know it's a short amount of time, but it's best we can do. Okay. Heather?
Okay.
Again, the question, okay. What lessons about village government do you think can be drawn from this?
Well, for me, quite often when you're doing surveys, talking to people, sometimes you get it wrong, and that's fine. It happens. Public opinion changes, people's understanding changes. So for me, the biggest thing, if I am sitting at the council table, is recognizing that communication is a two-way street. If someone comes to me and says, look, I think you got it wrong, there's a lot of people who don't support the action that is happening, and we'd like to sit down and talk with you, then it's worth the time for council to actually sit down and talk with you. You can't go wrong. It's nice to be able to hear the other side, hear what people have to say. And perhaps by working together, you might even find a solution, a better solution, a win-win solution, so that everybody can walk away with a little something and be happier and being involved in the process. That's what's important. The next thing that's really important to me, and a lesson that can be learned from this, is that when discussions are made by council, they should be discussed in an open council meeting. So if I come before you and I have a question or a concern, and council says, great, thank you very much, and then a month later, we find out that there's this response, but it was never discussed in an open council meeting where we could hear it. And the other thing is, it's important to reach out to the affected user groups specifically so that they can be involved in the process. And I see Gary's hand. So basically, good communication, it isn't easy, but the benefits will often override and mitigate any frustrations that might happen on both sides.
Thank you. Next to address the question is John Fyke. John, we're going to have you between Heather and Vern usually as we run up and down the table. All right, just so you know what's happening over here. Go ahead, John.
When a citizen group wants to make substantial changes to village plans, a request must be stated specifically in the petition. Council needs to make informed decisions on behalf of all the residents, and initial approaches offered share, collaborate, which can be broadly interpreted. When the group finally stated their real ask, and that's to move to block 50, and presented it to council based on inexplicable lack of info, their proposal was not accepted for the following reasons. Village does not have a recreational lease on block 50 and couldn't do it if they wanted to. The RDCK run recycling center would have to be relocated, and infrastructure requirements like toilets would have to be present as well. After block 50 dike setbacks were taken into account, the area left for the bike park would shrink from 2,700 square meters in the original all-wheel skill park plan to about 850 square meters in the block 50 development plan, or about 30% of the original plan. But the petition uses the words equitable. This is for kids of all ages, so equitable for who? When I asked via text where the group would have the recycling facility moved if their wishes were to take place, Hammond and Hartman both replied the old dump site. This is also not feasible, so that the group is content to reduce the area to 30% of the original and make everybody who uses the present recycling drive an extra 3.4 kilometers to do their recycling, a disincentive to recycling, and up. Okay, I'm up. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And yeah, you can see my arm there. You actually have until I put it down again, but.
Okay, could I just 2 more sentences then?
What?
May I have just two more sentences?
Sure, go for it. How about 12 seconds? Go for it.
Okay, and no time did any group come to the village staff for pertinent information. Council is required to make decisions based on the good of the whole community and not decisions by complaint. The request in the petition to move the skills park to block 50 therefore was not accepted.
Thank you very much for that. And we'll get this worked out, John, by the end of this. It'll be really smooth.
Thanks, Gary.
Okay. Okay, next to speak to the question is Vern Gustafson. Vern?
Okay, okay, throughout the process, council and staff thought we had done a more than ample job with all the conditions placed upon us through COVID, this kind of, all our public processes were Zoom, so there was a lot of difficulties. And, through all the professional people that helped us, we thought we had it right. And like Councillor Fyke has said, it's the job of the people sitting at the table representing you to represent everybody's interest. Worship's mother would never walk down from the bridge to the lake. She's scared stiff of dogs, so the intent was to keep everybody, in a space where nobody was going to be affected by somebody else. So we thought we had it right. Okay, I've had enough here.
Thanks, Vern. Danika?
Thank you.
Oh, okay, sure. I'll repeat the question again, okay? Because this is what Phil actually wanted to know. Probably I'll do. What lessons about village governance do you think can be drawn from this uncomfortable experience? Danika?
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Phil, for the question. I know that we're all tired of the conflict and the divisiveness. It did not have to be this way in any regard. I am a proud donor of the All Wheels track, and I'm really excited for the Trail Society that the project is moving forward. Ultimately, I wish it was in a different location, but it is what it is. And I want to thank the Trail Society for being willing to sit down. I think that's one of the great lessons is they requested twice to meet as a community group with those affected that use the off-leash area to see if there was a possible solution. And 200 people came forward with multitude of solutions or possibilities. We didn't have all the information and we wanted to see what was possible. The plan is what it is and it's moving forward. And I just ask that, if a golf course was going down to one hole, you would expect them to be upset. You wouldn't tell them to, go golf in the street, just carry your clubs around. It's the same, right? You wouldn't tell them to golf within the bush with the bears. So all community groups deserve respect and time to be properly consulted and to participate in community planning. I'm really sad because I think the lesson is this could have been an easy opportunity for collaboration and compromise. And it just got twisted into a conflict that didn't need to exist. I hope we can learn this as a learning opportunity. And if elected, I'd like to see that if people propose other ideas, let's just sit down and talk about it and make sure that if decisions have to be made, that they're thoroughly explained through participatory dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you, Danika. Casey?
I can just go straight into it. You're not asking me the question again? It is. Okay.
No, everybody knows the question now.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what ask it again. What
got-
lessons can we learn, Casey?
Okay. So thank you, Gary, and thank you, Phil, for asking that question. I think it's a lot of the reason why we might be here tonight. It's caused that division and conflict in our community. I feel that if from the outset that there was maybe a bit more time spent engaging the people that were going to be directly affected next to the development. I was down there just the other night walking my dog by it. It looks exciting. The track looks amazing. I'm excited for our youth to have things to do to keep them engaged in our community. But like Danika, I'm not super excited about the location. Just looking back at the OCP from 2007, consolidated in 2019. One of the growth principles is as follows: to preserve open spaces, natural beauty, and environmentally sensitive areas. That was incorporated into the Centennial Park Master Plan. And I understand there was a lot of surveying and a lot of research done and money that was paid for it. But if something isn't working or feeling right within your community, I think you have to take the time to collaborate and really partner with your community over these issues instead of shutting the door. Yeah, so thank you.
Thank you, Casey. Colin?
You know, I don't need to learn much from this as far as good governance and open communication goes. Frankly, I'm disappointed with more than a few people in this town. We did practice open government and good communication. And that misinformation has been spread in this community and resulted in divisiveness and dividing this community. And there was no need to. Our staff has been harassed and antagonized and confronted, as well as council. And I'm frankly just disappointed in the people that have done that. People that are spreading the disinformation that we weren't an open council and practiced good governance. It's totally untrue. And it's too bad, because one thing I've learned is to protect your staff when they're antagonized and confronted. That's what I've learned. I'm done.
Thank you, Colin. Okay, moving on to the second most asked question coming in by email. And that has to do, there were 4 questions from Emily Barber, June McMillan, Noel Fudge, and Phil Whitfield again. I think they threw out your question, Phil. You already had one. The one that was selected was from Noel to cover this. Again, do you intend to work collaboratively with our local nonprofit organizations? And if so, how would you do it? Okay, and I'd like to just run backwards down this way, Colin, beginning with you. Do you intend to work collaboratively with our local nonprofits? I have to say right off the bat here that everybody, I think, always has. It has to do with degree and how you do it. And I'm curious to see what people say about that.
Of course, we intend to work collaboratively with local nonprofit groups. Our council has right from the day we were elected. Why would you not? I just think it's a weird question. It's a non sequitur. Why wouldn't you? Of course we would. And you just talk with them, invite them to present to council. Our council has done that for 4 years. It's an easily answered question, and I've just answered it. Thank you.
Thank you. Casey?
Thank you for the question. In regards to working with nonprofits, I think we are aware that our community relies on a significant volunteer base to make things happen in our community. And to engage those groups, I think there needs to be different forms of communication, constant, I would say networking through having meetings on a regular basis and coming together with those groups, going to meet with them and having them provide updates, asking for updates and engaging them where they're at. Of course, I intend to work with those groups and I think they're a great value to our community. So thank you.
Do we need to
Yeah,
repeat the question? think everybody's got it.
I think Jason's already cutting me off on the microphone, and probably with good reason. Danika?
Thanks. Thanks, everybody, for that question. I think nonprofits are a real strong backbone for this community. And I want to thank all the volunteers who selflessly, in so many ways, just contribute so many hours to so many projects. You really make this community vibrant. And I think that there's a strong role for council to collaborate with nonprofits through an environment of partnership. I would say instead of competition, sometimes I've seen, you know, people are like, oh, I can't support that grant because they're applying, and we got to all uplift each other. Let's all support one another. We're working together. I'm aware in the past that there was a quartet of councils, New Denver, Silverton, Slocan, and Area H, that used to meet frequently. And I'd like to see that reinstated for collaboration, especially with nonprofits, so that they can present to all four at once. That eases some of the volunteer burnout concerns and administration. You know, it's more efficient, it values people's resources, their time. And so I'd like to see that happen. And we need to find more innovative and creative ways to work together to build social capital and create strong partnerships that revitalize our community. So, and I think that we have to come on an equal footing. We're all here together, and it's not a hierarchy of relationships. Let's work with the nonprofits equally as partners. Thanks.
Thank you. Vern?
As a council member for the last 4 years, I'm quite aware of the time I've spent sitting in chambers, meeting with, you know, normally until COVID, we had regular meetings, at least once a year, with nearly every nonprofit organization in the village. At any time, any public or any nonprofit wanted to present to council, they had ample opportunity. Nobody was ever denied. And the Slocan, Silverton, and New Denver meetings, well, COVID got in the way. I mean, we regularly did that, but yeah, we've had challenging times, and COVID got in the way of us meeting with all the nonprofits on a regular basis for the last 2 years. So it was the new normal. And hopefully, now that things have changed, we can get back into some of the things we used to do. Thank you.
Thank you. John?
Yeah, thanks. It's a great question. 2018, 2019, we had, as Vern presented, yearly meetings as to what were their plans, what were their financial interests, what did they need. And COVID came along and got in the way of those yearly meetings. So, I mean, we were and still are absolutely collaborative with Housing, Cohan, Healthy Community Society. Without being collaborative with the Housing Society, how could we possibly have this affordable housing project going? And I'm just thinking that, of course, COVID got in the way, and if elected, we'll reinstate those yearly meetings that we all had previously, and I look forward to that. Thanks.
Thank you. Heather?
All right, thank you, everybody. That was, again, a good question. Volunteer groups are definitely key to our community. They are what makes this place such an amazing home and place to live. When I was on council between 2011 and 2018, that was when we started the process of meeting annually with the various and sundry non-for-profit groups that were in our area, asking them what they accomplished in 2022, what their, in a given year, what their goal was for the next year, and how we might possibly be able to help them. And that is something that I would definitely continue if I am elected to council or as to the position of mayor. And I also have a strong technology skill set. I am comfortable working with technology. And so even if there are unexpected things like COVID that come along, I think meeting with the groups is important enough to be able to embrace that technology. Now, there may be some groups that might not work, but the challenge for council is to get your minds, collective minds together and see if there are ways that no matter what happens, can we continue to do something that is important? And something like that, meeting with our community groups, is very important to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Leonard.
Well, it's kind of a good question and kind of funny question from some sitting in my chair. I have spent from the time I was probably 6 years old or could walk, I was doing Maydays with my mother, and who still does it today. So yes, we work with nonprofits. You look around in the projects that have been accomplished will tell you that we work with nonprofits. The fact that the museum is one of them that was unfortunately was going to be closed, and we were able to get a grant and get the flooring and everything fixed in that particular building. The reading center with the folks out of the reading center, and we're working on bringing that up to a library with them. The stairs going down through our active transportation plan that previous people have gone in front of other councils and asked for that to be done, and we managed to find a grant and get that done. The housing project was sitting there idle, and when those folks came to us, we said, well, let's see what we can do, and we give them land, and then here we are. This can be done again. When groups came to us, we did actually meet, and we actually came through with what they were asking for. The one thing about government, you better get used to it being slow. There is nothing slower than government.
Thank you. I just have to interject here for just a minute. Could everybody stand up while I tell you a 30-second story? Okay, stand up and stretch, because we're going to try and power through here. Thanks. Speaking of Bosun Hall and the floor, this is the time I let you know that all these folks have come a long way since I was in office. Working with a nonprofit group once, the place where you're standing right now felt soft to us. So we had an engineer who was on council who weighed about 290 pounds, and part of the nonprofit group came down, and 8 of us formed a ring right about in the middle of this hall and jumped up and down at the direction of the engineer to see how strong the floor was, and we fell through. I think things are done a little differently now, and that's probably a good thing. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, sit down. You've had your rest or your stretch. Thanks a lot. We have time. We're going to try and get in one more question from this round from the emails, and then we'll go to open mic. Okay, the third most asked question. Okay, and there were over 12, so this is as far as we're going to get this round. And the subject had to do with youth. Rain Butt, Lita Botting, and Hannah Lisco all had a general question, which was summarized by Valley Voice as this: how have you and how will you engage, empower, and support the youth in our community? And again, we'll work backwards, okay, from you, Leonard, and we'll come back this way. How will you and have you engaged or empowered or would empower and support the youth in our community?
Well, we might as well get back to the controversial spot of the pump track. Last time when I was on council, we were approached by the youth to put in a bike skills park. So we did. We allowed them to have a little bit of a space down in Centennial Park, right next to the concrete washrooms, which would be the north end of the park. That lasted for a while till the logs all rotted out that they had done, and then here we are again. So supporting youth, I put kids first. Always have, always will.
Thank you. Heather?
Well, I remember back when early years in New Denver, when the youth center, we got grant funding available to create the youth center. And all the adults were like, yes, we've got grant money. The kids, we're going to get them out hiking. We're going to get them biking. We're going to get them swimming in the lake. We've got it all planned out. And the kids said, well, no, we don't want that. We want a youth center. And that only came about because the adults were actually willing to stop and listen and give the kids an opportunity to share what it was that they wanted. And I think going forward, it's important that we engage and empower and support our youth by listening to them and including them in discussions, especially discussions that affect them. It's so easy for us as adults to think we know what they want. And quite often we don't. And as with everything, being able to listen, whatever the age range, it is a skill worth doing, and it'll help get better information and understand what they want and what they need so that we can better work with them. Thank you.
Thank you. John?
Yeah, I think the pump track is the obvious one. Personally, I've done a golf unit every year with the kids at Lucerne, and there's no reason for kids to be bored in the summer, and to teach them an outdoor skill that's cheap and social. Also help build the salad bar for the Friday market with the kids that they run out of the youth center with Paula. Also, I've been involved in Rec 6 with the new putting in some new equipment. And in 2019, before the pandemic, there were 41 yearly paid up memberships, and in less than 3 months, there's now 88 paid up memberships. And when I go in there, there's a whole bunch of younger demographic and high school kids that are using that gym. So I think there's all sorts of ways that we can do that, and I think we are doing that. And kudos to the youth center too. That was great. I'm finished. Thanks.
Thank you. Vern?
Okay, once again, we come back to current council, and we heard we, got the pump track going, and we are now being chastised because we stood fast as that's what we considered that the children and the youth wanted. That is what we truly believed, that it was our decision, to give the kids what they were asking for, and to try to, it just was for the kids, and that's the whole reason, and they asked for it. And we thought it was our duty to protect what they were wanting, and the location that we chose was probably, in our mind, was the most logical spot for it. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Danika?
Great. Thanks, Gary. And thanks everybody for submitting that question. I've been a great advocate for youth issues for a long time. The Youth Center project, I was heavily involved in that and vice president as it was starting. And also during my undergrad, I was the co-chair of a provincial-wide organization to empower young people in politics. I would like to add that there's many definitions of young. Some people think that's just high school. The international definition is under 30. I think a rural definition might be under 50? Maybe. So I think when we're talking about young people in New Denver, it's important that we're not just thinking about the kids, but also young families that want to make a life here, and how we serve them. And part of it is, Casey and I are sitting here living by example. We choose to live here. This is the home we want to invest in. And we hope that more young people make that same choice as well. I think one of the key parts of the question was engage and empower. And one of the things I'd like to see that some communities do is either have a youth council or a youth representative who comes and presents to council or is in part of the decision so that they're there at the table with us. Heather had a great point about asking youth, you know, what is it that you want, and young families. Another idea would be a project comeback, which is designed for young families that other communities have done. So there's lots of creative ways that we can engage people, but let's get them at the table. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for the question.
Jason, am I on? Yeah. I just always want to say thank you. That's Casey.
Okay, thank you for the question. As far as experience in empowering youth and engaging them, through having our business, we employed a number of young working aged folks who learned different skills, customer service skills, how to, math skills, running the till, and how to interact with the public and take ownership and having a regular paycheck. I think there's been probably a number of folks who've come through our store and worked there as probably their first jobs. And currently with my position as a community paramedic, I have the opportunity to be going into the school to provide some training and education in first aid and CPR and when to call 911. And how I intend to continue to do so is to create an atmosphere where youth are welcomed to bring forward their concerns and their wants and wishes to council. I think if we can maybe go into the schools and invite that. I don't know that there is any current council or debate programs, but it'd be lovely to start those things. So I'd be interested in doing that. Thank you.
Thanks. Colin?
Yeah, there's been a lot of good ideas put forward. You know, any council should entertain different suggestions to empower kids, keep kids active. I think what this community seriously has to ask itself, how badly do you want kids? Because there are people here that don't like the sound of kids playing. And that's true. And the sound of kids playing is the sound of a healthy community. You've got to decide what kind of a community do you really want? And in order to do that, you've got to move forward. You've got to attract business. You've got to attract young families. You've got to have a business here that can employ young families. Ask yourself that question first. Personally, I agree with all of these people here and Mayor Casley that we should put kids first. It's the future of your community. It's an obvious answer. It's common sense. And so as a council member and as a member of past council, we've always been in favor of supporting and empowering children. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We got 3 questions. There's 9 to go. That's just from the written ones, but we're going to stop here and we're going to move over to questions from the floor. Okay, because it's now 4 minutes after 8. Okay, so for the next half hour, slightly less, we'll take questions from the floor. What I would like to ask you to do, if you have a question, is please come up on this side where this gentleman obviously knew what I was going to say. Okay, and if you could just introduce yourself when you speak, I'll give you the mic. We'll use this one. Just a quick preface, if you could, to your question. We'll get to the question and we'll have people answer them. You can ask all the candidates or just one if you want to. And the candidates who aren't asked can perhaps address the question during their summation. Okay, that's how we'll do it. And we're going in order of who fights their way to the front first. Okay, come on up. Ray, come on up and introduce yourself, Ray.
Hi, everybody. Are you going to hold it for me? Thank you, Gary. First of all, thanks all you guys for throwing your hats in the ring. We wouldn't be here without you guys. So my question is specifically for Danika. The success of any board requires collaboration and cooperation. We've heard collaboration, ironically enough, a dozen times at least. Danika, your opposition to the current council's decision to construct the pump track on the side of the creek has been well documented through letters to the editors in the Valley Voice. If elected to council, how will you strive to work as a productive team with the council members you have so greatly opposed? Thank you for answering my question.
And thank you for your question. Please, no, actually, we prefer it if you sit down because you might have a follow-up and we can't allow it. Okay, thanks, sir. Danika?
Thank you, Ray. Even though I'm quite young, I've had quite a bit of experience in politics, and we all disagree on different things. And that's okay. I've disagreed with people about COVID. I've disagreed with people about a number of issues in the community. And when it comes down to is we're all here together. And I respect every one of the people up here who've worked in local government. It takes a lot. I've seen it at the provincial level. It takes a lot and it's often not thanked. So I do want to thank them for their work. And I want to thank them for putting their hat in the ring again, as you said, Ray. Yes, I've opposed the location. I thought that, you know, there were reasons why I didn't like that location. And I thought that there were possibilities to move it. I was told otherwise, and it took a long time to get those answers, but they came forward and the project's moving ahead. I think what's important is that we put that division in the past and focus on the things in front of us. A lot of us have the same values up here. We want to see housing. We want to see internet connectivity. We want to see a revitalized business sector that supports our economy, supports our younger generations and our seniors. And Gary's giving me the hand, so that's about it. But I think it's important that we come together. We can all agree that we disagree on some things. Let's just sit down and talk about it. That's okay.
Thank you. Other questions from the floor? If you just come up this way. If you don't have any, I'll go back and take the written questions in the order in which they were written. Okay. Tamara, come on.
Hi there, guys. My name's Tamara Barkowski. I have a question and it's just addressed to Heather and Danika. You both in the past have received government funding to start local businesses, one being the Hearth Restaurant and the other the Lift Co-op Society. Both no longer exist. Can you please tell us how you used government grant money to benefit the community? For example, did it result in stimulating economic growth? And if elected, how will you stimulate economic growth in the future?
Thank you for the question. Okay, and I'll go Heather and Danika in that order. Heather?
Thank you, Tamara. That was a good question. I myself, of course, didn't receive the government funding that came through the Healthy Community Society. And I was part of a group of 3 or 4 people that worked together to put that restaurant, get it up and running. And we were hoping, we had plans to provide good evening service and meals for people in the community. And unfortunately, due to an unfortunate accident, we lost the restaurant before we had a chance to really see what difference it might or could have possibly made within our community. Stimulating economic growth is really important. The one area for me that I see as being of great potential to this community is getting every home and business hooked up with the fiber optic backbone, because I myself, with the business that I have, 2/3 of it is done online via Zoom. And how many times have I been doing some training and I get the unstable internet connection? And my internet needs are low compared to people who might be dealing with graphics and very photo intensive documents. Being able to get every home hooked up with the high-speed internet, I think has a chance to make a really big difference for our community. People can live here and get, even though their employer is somewhere else, and that will allow us to bring some high-paying jobs. It has the potential to bring high-paying jobs into our community, and people with families who can live and work here and still make a good living. even if their employer isn't here in New Denver. So that is what I'm really excited about, is getting behind the fiber optic and getting that hooked up to all of our homes. Thank you.
Thanks. Danika?
Thanks, Tamara. Yeah, so I know I'm not much of a home gardener, but I know that I did kind of plant the seed for the co-work project, and a lot of people still associate me with that society. I believe it was 2018, George Meyer, Ellen Kinsel, and I started the co-work society. And we were looking at, of course, renovating my dad's building, the old Silverton General Store. It's 125 years old this year. Very exciting, also very problematic. And it actually wasn't long after we started the society that I had to step away, because my dad owns the building. I think that was of concern to people, and we wanted to respect that. But also I was working for the Minister of Jobs, Economic Development and Innovation. And it seemed like it could be a perceived conflict, even though the money didn't come from that, well, we didn't have any money at that time, but it was appropriate for me to step away. So I did in early 2019, I'm going to forget the dates. And then the society grew beyond that. Lots of other people joined. They decided to do a commercial kitchen project. And that's when they got big amounts of funding. And it was realized that the general store was not the appropriate building. It was too complicated for the heritage assets, the concerns. My dad and I have been investing lots of time and lots of money to try to make that building serve the community. But the society has opened Fireweed Hub on Main Street of New Denver, and they're currently awaiting a permit for renovating Rory's old restaurant building, which is all public information. It was posted in the Valley Voice last year, and they have a Facebook page. I also support internet connectivity and a whole bunch of other things, but I wanted to address that one. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Again, questions from the floor? No? Okay. If you have some, come up and stand just in front of this lady right here with the red shirt. Okay, because I think she's vetting us as we come by. No, I actually, Kathy gave up her seat to somebody else. So we're going to question number 4 of questions that were emailed in, and it has to do with affordable housing. There were 3 questions from Shuki Barber, Jackie Unger, and Ryan Butler. And the questions are summarized by the Valley Voice as this. And this is to everyone, what measures would you support for increasing housing affordability and availability for year-round residents in New Denver, and for curbing the number of seasonal residents? Okay, it's a double question, but the topic is housing. So 2 things are being asked here. What measures, if any, would you support for increasing the affordability and availability? And how do you feel about curbing the number of seasonal residences? And should you? Okay, it's 2 questions. Good luck, everybody. I'm going to start with Colin.
You know, as far as new housing projects go, I'm going to leave this for Mayor Casley, because he's a true visionary, big project guy, and he's got some great ideas that he's come up with, and I don't want to steal his thunder. What was the second part of the question? I forget already.
About curbing.
Oh, right. Yeah. Curbing absentee ownership. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of my customers are absentee owners. The only way I see to curb absentee ownership is to grow as a community and encourage business that will attract and enable full-time residents to live here. As absentee owners sell their houses, they could be replaced by full-time families. I asked people that grew up here, Vern and Leonard, how many people lived here when this was a vibrant community? And the figure is around 800 people. We've got no more new houses, basically, a few. How did 800 people live here? Because there was work here and all those houses were full of full-time families. You can't force people to rent their houses. If you're wealthy enough to own a second or a third house, you don't need rental income. That's about all I've got to say on that. Thanks.
Thanks. Casey?
Thank you for the question. So housing, yes, it's a huge issue for us. One thing I would consider doing is looking at the communities around us and seeing what they're doing and what successes they're having, what projects they're setting out on. I'm looking potentially at Slocan with a very bustling, growing population. They've made efforts to secure land, and I would also look at things such as the bylaws on building certain structures and sizes of homes. So whether it's tiny homes or whether they have wheels or not, whether we can talk to people and see where there's wiggle room. There'd have to be a public consultation with that. And it's a controversial thing, but as Colin mentioned, folks who have homes that have this great wealth, maybe we can talk about an empty home tax. And I know it's a scary topic, but something that could be looked at. Yeah.
Great question. That's okay. You've only been out for about 37 hours in a row. I know. Danika?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so we're all aware that housing is a great challenge and there's a great need. I think we've done enough studies to show that, so we don't need to prove that there's a need anymore. I'm really excited about the 10 units, the Osprey project. 10 units is not enough. It's a great start. It's fantastic, and we want to celebrate that, but it's definitely not enough. And I think we need to look at the causes of our housing challenges. Absentee ownership might be one of them. And I think that there's value in partnering with our neighboring communities who are suffering from similar challenges and doing a study on what do people want to do about that? Is that a concern for people? If it is, how do you want to address it? Is it an empty homes tax? That would require advocating to the provincial government that we get an empty homes tax, just like they have in Vancouver and in areas in Kelowna. But let's work together as a region to address that so that we're not alone. We're a little community. Let's work with our neighbors to address like a region-wide housing strategy that addresses the empty home ownership. Also, Casey mentioned Slocan's acquired a significant piece of land, and I think that's really inspiring and possibly in the future for New Denver if we would like to do that. But that needs to be consulted with the community on where and for what purpose. Thank you.
Thank you. Vern?
Okay, worship, I'm an equal opportunity thief when I'm looking for an answer. Danika, or one of the Danika Casey mentioned, the vast growth in Slocan. Well, they haven't something we don't have, and that's public transit, which allows that population to get to Nelson quite quickly. So that I think that's probably a big factor in there. With the boundary expansion, the Village of New Denver now has brought a piece of property that they owned previously within the village limits. There's water for that property now. The current, the old dump property and the adjoining highways yard there. It was purchased in the 1990s by the village and sat there because there was a lot of issues. And we did get a grant in the 6-8 months ago to start exploring all that property for potential for a fairly major housing project. So hopefully if we can continue on council, we'll, that'll be another project that'll be coming on in a couple of years. So.
Thank you. John?
Yeah, at the recent UBCM conference, I'm aware now that a properly considered official community plan can drastically reduce the permitting time for residential rezoning and other developments to occur more rapidly. And as mentioned previously, there's 2 sites now that are the village is possibly able to make available. And there's some creative network or neighborhood plans, and also very creative financing that's coming up in order to promote those and curbing absentee landowners. I think, as maybe Colin mentioned, to increase the incentives to move here, and that will be through connectivity mainly at this point. And I think if there's enough families that want to move here, then they'll buy, given the incentive. So possibly empty homeowners tax, but as Danika mentioned, that's legally a tough one. But we have 2 sites made available now that the village can work on with BC Housing. Thanks.
Thank you. Heather?
Okay, well, as far as increasing housing, it sounds like there are a couple of projects that are underway in the village right now. And I think that is great. Definitely something that I would continue to work with whatever is underway at the time, because I think housing is very important. As far as curbing seasonal, that one, there is no easy answer. That one came up when I was on council, 7 years, big issue. What do you do about seasonal homes? What do you do about Airbnbs? Do we police Airbnbs? Do we not police them? Do we tax people? Do we not tax them? Sometimes, maybe you could tax them, but then there's ramifications. It's not an easy answer. This is a democracy. If you've got the money, you can own 10 houses in New Denver and have them all empty, and there's not much we can do about it. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't try. It doesn't mean we shouldn't look to other communities, look to people in this community, and see if there are ideas and different ways of approaching things, looking and working with other local governments, because this is not unique to New Denver. There are other communities that have a way worse problem than we do. So the solutions are out there. They're not going to be easy to find. There is no quick answer for this one. And all we can do is just keep our eyes and ears open and see if we can find a solution, and hopefully things will change over time.
Thank you. Leonard?
So I'll start with the housing, or not the housing one, I guess the absentee landowners. Part of the things is we need to make them people feel they're part of the community to spend more time here. They also provide a business, which there are quite a few landscape businesses and stuff in our area that they actually contribute to the economy. So, and house checks that have to be done now both through insurance. So it is not all bleak, but is there really a one-all answer? No, there is not. Part of the what we had done as council in the last 4 years is we were working on, and in our 59 tasks that we gave staff, was one of them was to start the mitigation and look at what it's actually going to take and answer some of the questions that have been out there since the property in Denver siding has been taken into the village. It was brought into the village years ago when we were looking at putting in an arena. Like, this is going to take way longer. But there are some other ideas as we investigate the opportunity, but there are some really unique ways that are happening in other communities for how to do financing and stuff. And as we work forward to that, we would be bringing all that forward and in the aspects so that the community can see the master plan for that.
Thank you all for your answers to the question. And again, I think we all understand that you all have a lot more to say, and it's cruel sometimes to limit it to 60 or 90 seconds, but we will. I'd like to go back to questions from the floor, because we have a couple speakers up here who will come up and introduce themselves and have a question for council or members of council.
Hi, I'm Ruby Zoll, and I just wanted to ask council and candidates, what is your long-term plan for sustaining the environmental resources and wildlife habitats on this land?
Thank you, Ruby. Did everybody get the question? Okay. your long-term plan for sustaining those resources. And we'll start at the end. Leonard?
Long-term plans is to enhance our park areas and allow them to stay park. Take some of our areas that are around our community that we're actually now within the boundary expansion and be able to keep them going that way. We have worked on improving our equipment to this latest and newest environmental standards, which they can operate under at this point, and keeping our equipment upgraded. So that part of it is we signed on to an climate action plan. We took on something that's quite unique for the people may not realize is that when we went to digital agendas, we over the year we figured out what that actually meant, and reducing the paper that we had purchased over the years per year would actually equate to a 1% tax increase for the amount of paper that we took off by using paperless agendas. And that is actually from our CAO that really browbeat us into doing it.
Thanks. Heather?
Well, it's a very good question. It's a very tough question. It's one of these that you either give a 2-hour answer or you make it really short. So sustaining long-term environmental resources, that's really important to me. Protecting green spaces, protecting habitat for other species, local resiliency, looking for ways that we can be more resilient in so many areas. And the key thing is right-sized economic development. We need to recognize that our economic footprint has the biggest impact on wildlife and on habitat. If we're not careful, we will grow and expand, and before you know it, there is no room for the grizzly, there is no room for the wolverine. And so when I'm making decisions, I'm thinking not only about the human footprint, but about the footprint that we might be making on the habitat of other species, and recognizing that they are bellwether. If we lose bees, if we lose smaller critters, it's going to impact us down the road, maybe not now, but eventually. So protecting our environment is important to me, and short little summary for something that I could go on a lot more about. So thank you very much.
Thanks. John?
Yeah, I think first of all, in the immediate vicinity here, continue with our fire mitigation planning and the thinning processes. Also, I think if we could prioritize transit up the valley more and put more pressure on RCK to give us transit so that it reduces at least our greenhouse gas emissions, much as the machines that Leonard had talked about. Also, I've had it in the back of my mind for about 4 years now about a community forest, in our immediate vicinity that we have control over. I think we could work towards having a community forest that surrounded us and benefited the community in so many ways, economically and environmentally. It's a tough question, and I think that's all I've got for now.
Thanks. Vern?
Okay, as a forest resources tech grad from Selkirk College, my early part of my career my whole life was based on resource extraction, and I've actually sort of calmed down a lot in my later life. Both my children have degrees in environmental science. One is a lawyer for the Environment Division of Yukon government. My son is a wildlife biologist in Golden. So, they've actually learned from my mistakes. So that's a big thing. And as far as locally, John mentioned the fire mitigation. We have to, keep everything within the boundaries healthy, to reduce any potential fires, that will be catastrophic. And the village, you know, the equipment like Leonard mentioned, and public transit, public transit is our future. Electric cars is a stepping stone, but public transit, efficient public transit, that's going to be the biggest step that will save us from ourselves.
Thanks. Danika?
Gary, I'd just like to confirm that the question is about wildlife and ecosystem preservation, not actually climate change, right? Kind of. Sustaining resources. Okay, perfect. I wanted to talk a lot about climate too, but in terms of ecosystems and wildlife, I want to note a couple of really great projects, particularly the Sinkmeet Marsh, protecting a valued ecosystem, as well as the Old Growth Trail up the road towards Casley. We need to do more of that, and that works in collaboration. I keep saying this word, we all keep saying this word, but it's not within just the municipal boundaries. We work for everybody here, and I think that's coordinating with Area H, with other municipalities to find sensitive ecosystems that need protection and conservation. There's a conservation referendum that will also be on your ballot on the 15th, everybody, just as a heads up. And as far as wildlife, the Toad project with the little bridges and stuff, that's great. Let's do more of that, as well as protect critical habitat for caribou and grizzly. And again, this just comes back to the nonprofits. We have so many environmental nonprofits, whether locally or regionally, and let's work with them. They've got the experts, they've got the scientists. I'm not going to claim that I'm an environmental expert. I took some environmental policy courses, but let's work together to preserve our greatest natural asset where we live. Thanks.
Thanks. Casey?
Okay, thank you for the question. So yes, in protecting our ecosystems and wildlife, things that I can think of, reviewing back to the OCP, the official community plan, protecting those environmentally sensitive areas that are identified, and continue to review those on an ongoing basis, and consulting experts who do have that background to understand where we need to be looking at protecting those areas. Any kind of materials that we're going to be building new homes with, we need to look at any, I guess, polluting effects from those, looking at developments in and around our communities, and taking, as much information as we can in to ensure that we make the right decision for the future of our community. Yeah, and I think that's my answer. Thank you.
Thanks. Colin?
Yeah, one of the problems of being the last person to answer in this row here is that a lot of things I wanted to say have been said. Touching on a little bit on what Danika said, I've been the village representative on the board of the regional district for 4 years. And the first thing I think of is collaboration with other communities, other levels of government. Regional district has a lot of resources that we can use. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can cooperate with other communities and levels of government. Anything else I would have thought of has been said already. Thank you.
I'd like at this time just to very briefly thank all the candidates for answering the question immediately and stopping when you think you've made your point. It lets us get to more questions. So again, Ruby, thank you for your question, and thank you for your answers, candidates. We have from the floor. Okay, another question. Yeah, come on up.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jamie Campbell. Okay, can you hear me? I grew up in New Denver, and I moved away for 20 years, and I've been back for 2 years. And I guess I'd be considered a digital entrepreneur, and I'm excited about fiber optic internet, honestly, but it's not my first priority. It's exciting for sure. And respectfully, I care a lot less about a dog park, and I care more about doctors. You know, I have aging parents who live in the area. Yeah, I'm getting there. Sorry. Sorry, I have aging parents who live in the area. Don't tell them I said that. But my question is specifically for Heather, because I think the current council has sort of demonstrated to us how they're advocating for emergency services. And so my question to you, because you're running for mayor, is how does your knowledge and experience going to lend to advocating for us to have ER services in this town?
And thanks for your question. Heather?
Yes, thank you. That was a very good question. As mayor, one of the jobs is to recognize where your strengths are and where your weaknesses are. I am not a healthcare expert. That's not something I'm going to step in and save the day because that's not my skill set. But as mayor, I can recognize and acknowledge the people who do have the skill set, who have been working tirelessly to save our hospitals and work within the system to try and make changes and benefit and improve our rural healthcare. And that would be my role, would be to recognize the people who are doing the job and have got boots on the ground and have the knowledge that I do not have, and then work with them as mayor and help as best I can to pave the way and make things smooth so that we can move forward with that. One of the roles I could see as I would, become mayor, learn more about it, is the BC Rural Health Network. There would probably be a role for a political representation from the village to sit on that committee, especially as mayor. But that would all require, getting up to speed, finding out where I could best be of service to people. But in that case, it would be recognizing again the volunteers, the people who are working hard, getting to know the doctors and nurses, and just learning to work with the people who do have skill sets that I do not have. Thank you.
And again, thank you for your question. I hope that answered it. Any questions from the floor right now, or I'll go down our mail list. Okay, next question on the mail list. And then there were two questions people had about our electoral system for getting people on council. The questions came from Sabrina George and Rain Butt. They came with different perspectives. The topic was the same. So Jan chose Rain's more general question, and we hope it answers both of them. Okay, and it goes like this, and this goes to all councils candidates. Under our current municipal electoral system, voters are able to cast a vote for up to 4 individual council candidates and 1 mayoral candidate. Not casting all 5 votes or spoiling your ballot is not considered nefarious or legal in this system. The question is, have you, as an elected official or candidate, ever opposed this electoral system? And if you're elected and are unhappy with this system, would you endeavor to change it? Or in what way would you try to improve it? Okay, so I'll give you 1 second to stall and think about it. No, not to stall, but to consider your answer. Okay, it's talking about your electoral system. Okay, because 4 of you get elected to council, 1 is mayor, and that's kind of the way it works. But again, people can vote for whoever they want to, as long as they don't vote for more than the maximum. And so the general question is, should you have to vote for that number or not? And what would you do? And Colin, this time you get to go first. Okay, nobody's stealing your thunder.
I believe the term is vote plumping when you are, Gary would know that, is vote plumping when you don't fill out your entire ballot and only vote for a few candidates. Personally, I think it's fine the way it is. I don't have a problem with it. You vote for whoever you want to. If you've got to plump your vote, then that tells me maybe you or a group of people aren't too confident in getting elected. Personally, I'm okay with it. Either way, it's a free country, it's democracy. Vote how you want. It's that simple. Thank you.
Thanks. I have so much I would like to say, but I'm not going to. Casey?
Okay, thank you for the question, Rain. So I believe that would be something that could be advocated if there was some change. I don't have an idea into how to change that electoral system. Perhaps moving to a provincial level where something like proportional representation, that was something that I was interested in and voted for. Currently, we have that opportunity to vote for 4 councillors, up to 4, and 1 mayor. Yeah, if it gets people voting, if someone doesn't necessarily feel that the candidate, the ballot list is to their liking, then as long as it gets people to vote, to the polls, that's what I care about. Currently, what I am more concerned about is people's access to voting. And just in our particular area, I know that the Denver siding residents were not automatically brought on to the electoral list with a boundary extension. And so not many residents are aware of this, and they do need to bring additional identification to register at the polls. Danika and I will be targeting this community for outreach following tonight to ensure that that does happen. Thanks.
Thanks, Danika.
Thanks, Gary. Thanks for the question. Yes, we have a particular electoral system at the municipal, provincial, and federal levels of orders of government. Sorry, it's been a long night. These systems are definitely not without critique. I also campaigned heavily for proportional representation at the provincial level and have been against our current provincial system. At the municipal level, of course, changing it would also require provincial changes. I don't think we can change it alone here as much as we might want to. But right now, as it currently stands, you have a democratic right to vote for 1, 2, 3, or 4 candidates. And I would say, Gary, you could vote for 5 if you want to intentionally spoil your ballot. You could do it. You have the right to do that if you want, or vote for no candidates. I know people who've done that. They've gone to show up to the polls and they said, I don't want any of these people, but I'm going to mark to say that I was here and I voted. And that's what's most important, that people vote and vote how you want. And that's your right to do that. Thank you.
Thanks, Vern.
Okay, midstream here, I'm basically the same as the rest of them, that it's a democratic right for you to vote for whomever you want. And yeah. And the village in New Denver, believe it or not, is not going to force a change in the whole system. So let's just stop right there.
Agree with them or not, that was a darn clear answer. John?
Yeah, I think we have free choice in a democracy, and to advocate for a change in the system, which I think is quite fair. And when there's so many other priorities to spend energy on, I would say I'm happy with the system the way it is. And as Casey had mentioned too, the important thing is we get out and vote, however we vote. So I don't think it's a topic I would be willing to spend energy on when there's so many other important things out there that will really affect our future. Thanks.
Thanks. Heather?
All right, as has been mentioned multiple times, our current system does allow us to cast up to 4 votes. And I think it's important that we feel comfortable voting for the candidates that resonate with us. And if that's 1 or 2 or all 4, great, but vote for the people that resonate with you. And the beauty of this and having this discussion here is now everybody knows that. It wasn't something I knew when I was young and went to the polls. I thought I had to vote for all 4 people. And then you're left going, well, I don't know about this person and I kind of don't know about this person. So if I pick this one, we'll see what happens. But now that everybody knows that it's okay, vote for just the people that you resonate with. And if everybody in this village does that, it's quite likely we'll have one of the more representative elections of all time, because people will be voting just for those that they think are best going to represent their views. And I think that can be very empowering. So yeah, key thing, get out and vote, whether you're going to vote for 1 councillor or all 4, just get out and vote. We would appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks. Leonard?
Well, I have a kind of little bit of a different opinion of it all, but one thing you should be awful thankful you live in Canada and you're not told how to vote by the government. It is your free right to vote however you like. My thoughts on whatever you want to call it, you only want to vote for 2 or 3 people, then if you're doing that, maybe you should ask yourself when you're looking in the mirror, is then maybe you should be sitting up here with the rest of us and put your name on the ballot. And then you get to vote for 3 or 4. But if you aren't willing to sit up here and do this and take your time for 4 years, then those are choices you get to make, and you get to look at yourself in the mirror. So I'd suggest if you're only going to vote for 1 or 2 of us, you probably need to run.
Okay, Jan McMurray, I have a question for you. Okay, I've probably blown it here. I wanted to get in this last question. Okay, but we now don't have time to give all candidates 3 minutes to wrap up. Unless we run over a few minutes. Is that possible? Well, we can't do any more questions, but can everybody still get 3 minutes, and we'll be a little bit late, but not much. Is that okay, Jan? Yeah, they don't shut the lights off here. Okay, good. Okay, so there are lots more questions. Again, you know, most all the candidates try and talk to them here right after this meeting, or any time over the next 19 days before the advanced polls or the election on the 15th. And I'm sure they would be happy to, you know, spend more time in more depth answering your questions. So I just want to say thank you very much for those questions. And let's we'll go starting with the councillor candidates. Okay, for your final wrap up speech. Okay, 3 minutes, something like that. And John, if we start with you, and then we're going to go down the row here, we can see where everybody is. If we could start with John Fyke, okay, for closing statements. John.
Thank you. Knox Hall revitalization, Denver Siding Water Project, Village Boundary Extension, Centennial Park Master Plan, Active Transport Network resulting in the stairway at the New Market, Community Technology Center, Poverty Reduction Plan, Development Servicing Bylaws, Centennial Park Stage and Washrooms, Nikkei Internment Memorial Center, Village Wells relocation, Flood Mitigation Planning or dike repair, fire smarting buildings, campground improvements, affordable housing, fiber optic connectivity. This council has leveraged $1 million of village funds through the dedication and tireless efforts of our village staff into $3 million of additional grant funding to complete these projects, a few of which are still in progress. And again, I've just got to reiterate, we have an incredible staff, and past and present, but now it's really good. I'm immensely proud of the New Market stairway, safely connecting pedestrians and bike to the downtown. There are many active transport improvements planned as well. And food resiliency is a real concern for a vibrant future, and I'll work hard to initiate a productive and cooperative community garden if elected. The development of an up-to-date official community plan was and still is a priority for me. The recent UBCM conference, I'm aware now that a properly considered OCP can drastically reduce permitting time for residential rezoning and other development to occur more rapidly. Up-to-date fire mitigation building bylaws are also a necessity as part of the OCP. It's only a matter of time before BC policies as well as insurance companies will be requiring it. There is so much to do, and if elected, I'll do my best to work towards creating a new Denver that is truly sustainable and vibrant into the future. Thanks a lot.
Thanks. That's John Fyke, candidate for council. And now candidate for council, Vern Gustafson. Vern.
Okay, the role of council. The role of council is to guide and support staff. And in the last 6 months, it's been a really labor-intensive job to support our staff. Our public works, our office staff have been verbally abused to no end And that's one of the jobs of council. And the other job is to provide the staff with the direction to go for grant funding. You know, we sort of devise a plan, staff is involved, you know, we wanted to go for one grant, which would lead to another. That's how the system works. You start with a small one and work towards bigger ones. And we are mostly guided by our staff. Our staff does a lot of work and they ask us to approve their recommendations. You know, we don't miraculously tell them what to do. They actually do the work for us and we provide the okay. Probably one of the most important things outgoing council has done is develop capacity. Capacity being the ability of the village to complete grant funding projects, the Knox Hall project. The Knox Hall project we inherited from previous council, and it was sitting there spinning with no capacity, no knowledge within the village to actually complete the project. We hired Greg McTaggart, a carpenter, contractor, and with his work and with Lori, you know, the project had to be redesigned because of, you know, all the unforeseen. So, and it was, you know, it was finished. It's a beautiful project now. Lisa in the office, our new CAO, you know, I say about Lisa, I mean, don't take a knife. She doesn't take a knife to a knife fight. She takes a gun. She's a very smart person and, you know, she has the capacity to deal with everything. And Jessica, our planning lady, she has just done wonders, you know, for the capacity to get things accomplished. Yeah. So, like I say, the biggest accomplishment current council has done is to hire the people to get the projects done.
Thank you for council, Vern Gustafson. And again, running for councillor, Danika Hammond. Danika?
I want to conclude just by thanking everybody for coming tonight. It's a full house. It really shows the clear dedication and interest of the community in our future. And I think that's a really healthy aspect of our democracy and our civic engagement. I also want to thank my fellow candidates for offering themselves up for service again or for the first time. It takes guts. I know that. I feel it. And I just want to applaud you all in your commitment to the community. Growing up here, living here, it's an immense privilege. I really view it as a privilege. And it's a choice that I've continued to make throughout my adult life is to live here. And people constantly ask me why I choose to live here, either locals or people that I know in the city. They're like, aren't you going to leave? Aren't you going to leave? And I always say no. I normally just have to show them a picture of the view, right? That helps. But really it's about living in connection. That's what rural living is for me. It's about living connected to one another and in partnership. It's our relationships and our connections that make us strong. And we don't always agree. We know that. We know that. But we can bind together in times of need and in times of celebration. I'm asking for your support this October 15th or 5th if you vote in the advance voting. To elect a diverse set of candidates that represents our community. I'm excited to run alongside Casey. We're kind of the next generation. That's what we're representing. And again, although we represent young people, I think that's under 50. And we care about older generations. We care about future generations. We want to work together. And lastly, I'm running for council because I believe in the value and importance of partnerships. We've talked about that a lot. I want to advocate for the preservation and expansion of our key services and assets. And I will foster an inclusive approach to council affairs that is transparent and collaborative. I hold a really fierce loyalty to this community and a commitment to strengthening and revitalizing it through a strong vision to build an inclusive future. So this October 15th or on October 5th, October 5th is Village Council, October 5th and 15th is at the Knox Hall, 8 to 8, both days. go out and vote. Go vote for everybody that you want to. That's what's most important, is that you get your voice heard. Your input matters. Thank you.
Was Danika Hammond candidate for council and also candidate for council. Casey Law. Casey?
Thanks, Gary. In closing, I would like to thank the Valley Voice for hosting this event and Gary for moderating. And as well, likewise, Danika, I would like to thank all of the candidates that are here tonight and have put their names forward. I hope you feel compelled to elect new faces who are caring, committed, and open to working through what challenges lay ahead. And I look forward to the opportunity of working with Danika as a next generation councillor. And I truly believe that we do want to see positive forward momentum in our lives and communities, yet keeping our values and future generations in mind. All groups have something important to say, and I think if we make the time, we can come to some great decisions. I won't pretend that if I'm elected, I'll have all the answers, and I know that there will be challenges to face on a regular basis as part of taking on these council duties, and this will be a very steep learning curve for me. What I do bring forward is my understanding of working within a municipal government as a municipal enforcement officer, and my care and concern for the well-being of my community, family, and friends. And we all want to see these services that we rely on and depend on continue forward with all the support possible. This will require cohesiveness and the ability to trust one another, that we are paddling the same boat in the same direction. And that's why I look forward to this next generation of council. Thank you.
That was Casey Law, your candidate for council, and also candidate for council, Colin Moss.
You know, I don't have a prepared statement. I don't like them because a lot of times to me, they're just words that anybody can make up. I find it funny that one of the comments Heather made in her comments was that she doesn't know much about local health care. She wants to work with the BC Rural Health Network, and she feels we need an executive on the BC Rural Health Network. I don't know how many of you here know it, but I am currently the vice president of the BC Rural Health Network, as well as the membership and fundraising chair. Mayor Casley serves on the board of the BC Rural Health Network and is also our Emergency Operations Committee chair. Leonard Casley and I have worked tirelessly for years to save our health center. And you'd have to be a relative newcomer or have lived on Mars for 4 years not to see what this council's done in the last 4 years. Leonard Casley's a true visionary, big ticket type of a guy, leader. We put together a true team. You know what we've done. Why would you want to change that direction? We're moving forward. We said we would 4 years ago. We've done it. We've turned the ship around. Why do you want to change that? Why do we need a new leader? We don't. Leave things going the way they are and we can continue. We can continue to finish the projects we've taken on. We've got the staff now and the team. We're not afraid to take on new projects. You know we can do it. I don't think we need a turnaround. We need one more councillor elected to join present council, and that's your choice. We're doing a great job now. Leonard Casley's a true leader, and a true leader doesn't need to stand up and tell people they're a leader. The community knows a true leader when they see one. We've got one. We don't need to change it. And I'll leave you with this Chinese proverb that I've heard, and it goes something like this: be not afraid of moving forward slowly, be afraid of standing still. Thank you for showing up tonight.
That was your candidate for council, Colin Moss. And for the mayoralty candidates, we'll start at the far end of the table because that way I can keep track of everything. Okay. Again, for Mayor Leonard Casley. Leonard.
Great. Thanks, Gary. Thank you all for coming out. It's great to see that people actually come out. Now, the next step is, if you are thinking seriously of only voting for 2 or 3 of us, please look in the mirror. and think about that for a second, because you need to sit up here. And these folks have all going to dedicate 4 years time to be able to have people in the community come up to you day in, day out while you're at the grocery store, which takes about an hour now. Seriously, or longer. But, you know, they are standing up here in front of you and they need to be applauded for that. So, because it takes a lot more than people don't understand. And the fact that government moves at a different rate, at a different pace, you have a vision of going in there and you're going to do all this stuff a certain way. Guess what? Government don't work that way. It's unfortunate. I have a great passion, as you all know, if you know me or you've been anywhere near me, about healthcare. I could not move things forward without being in the seat I'm in here. And that is probably one of the main reasons that made me decide to leave the fire service, because that personally is an honorary job that I hold dear, and I'm very proud of what I did there, bringing it from one truck to where it is today. So please get out and vote. And if you're thinking you're going to vote for only a couple of us, then put your name on next year's ballot, or the next 4 years ballot, please. Thanks.
That was Leonard Casley, and also candidate for mayor, Heather Fox. Heather?
All right, thank you, Gary. I want to thank the Valley Voice for hosting this event, and Gary, of course, for moderating the discussions this evening. Thank you very much. It has been great. And thank you all for asking the questions that you asked, putting us on the spot, and giving us a chance to answer as best we can. I put my name forward because I saw a need for more openness and respect at the council table. Many people who contribute to New Denver and consider New Denver their village come from outside of our boundaries. These people spend money here, volunteer on local boards, help out at events. As a result, I believe that each and every person in New Denver and the surrounding areas have a right to come before council and to be listened to with respect and openness. The end result may not be what you want, but the process should be open and transparent. Good communication requires give and take, sharing of information, and a willingness to discuss the issue. The same skill set of openness, communication, and collaboration will also be employed when working with various levels of government. My years in the corporate world and on council have given me the skill set to respectively deal with people and with difficult issues. If elected, I will connect with our volunteer groups and explore ways that the village may be able to assist them. Our volunteer groups work hard and their efforts make New Denver a great place to live. I will prioritize the efforts to connect every home in New Denver to the fiber optic backbone because of the potential economic benefits to our village. I will commit to supporting those whose tireless efforts are striving to keep our hospital open and our rural healthcare strong. I also fully support working both locally and regionally to strengthen our food network and increasing our food security. Thank you once again for coming out tonight. And if you have any questions, I look forward to talking with you over the next couple of weeks and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you. Would all the candidates stand up and be recognized by the folks here? Okay, the slate of candidates. Got John back there. Okay. Thank you all. Okay, candidates at this time, everything is referred back to the hiring committee here. You'll be hearing from them, okay, in a couple of weeks. But I just want to say, as the host of this thing, that I appreciate all of you. I have the greatest respect for all of you, and I think we all do. But also for those of you who are here tonight, there were some good questions. I think they were well presented, well spoken. I hope you got some answers that will help you decide what to do on voting day. Thank you all for coming.